You cutthroat, you're so funny. And Parker, you torpedoed a garbage scow? Ha ha ha, that's a riot. Those potato peels must have looked like a sub. Just then, a real siren wailed. A Japanese bomber was spotted on the horizon. Air raid. Carpenter screamed. Binghamton, high on the gas, just waved. Oh, let them come. It's a fire drill. A beautiful fire drill. Parker, caught in the middle of the confusion, stumbled out to a machine gun mount. Still wearing his executive officer hat, he began firing wildly. By some miracle of physics and sheer terror, he hit the bomber's fuel line. The plane went down in a spectacular plume of smoke. Admiral Shoemaker, who had arrived for the hearing, stood in awe. Magnificent. That man stood laughing in the face of death. He's a combat hero. Wait, Binghamton giggled, pointing at Parker. He's a boob. He's a beautiful hero boob. The Admiral turned to Binghamton. Captain, I have grave doubts about your sanity, but none about this young man's bravery. Case dismissed. Chapter 4. Sydney. The alligator with a hat off. Peanut butter. The temporary peace was broken by a new arrival, Sydney. Sydney was an alligator that Ensign Parker had befriended with his mother's homemade peanut butter. He likes me, Skip. Parker beamed as the 6-foot reptile rested its head on his shoe. I'm calling him Sydney. Parker, that thing belongs in a swamp, not a naval base. McHale sighed. Meanwhile, Binghamton had hatched a new plan. He had marked 9 $100 bills and placed them in a wallet, hoping to bait the crew into stealing it. He left the wallet on a stump near the beach. He didn't account for Sydney. The alligator, attracted by the smell of leather, or perhaps just bored, snapped up the wallet. He ate the captain, Parker screamed, finding Sydney with Binghamton's ID card hanging out of his mouth. Sydney ate old Leadbottom. The news spread like wildfire. The crew began to celebrate. Hip hip hooray for Sydney. They cheered, but Binghamton wasn't dead. He was just furious. He burst into McHale's shack. You're all under arrest. You stole $900 from my wallet. Sir, McHale said calmly. Sydney stole it. He's an alligator. An alligator? Code name for McHale, I suppose? Binghamton sneered. The court-martial of Ensign Parker for grand larceny via reptile was the event of the season. Parker, acting as his own defense, argued, I object. You can't call Sydney stupid. He may have had an unhappy childhood. Just as the judge was about to gavel a guilty verdict, the doors burst open. The crew led Sydney into the courtroom. Exhibit A, McHale shouted. Sydney, prompted by a peanut butter sandwich, opened his mouth and dropped the wallet on the judge's desk. The serial numbers matched, but more importantly, the captain's aide, Carpenter, accidentally admitted it was a trap. Aha, the judge shouted. So it was a frame-up. Case dismissed. And Captain, get that lizard out of my court. Chapter 5. The Ghost of PT-13. Binghamton's final attempt at revenge involved psychological warfare. He discovered that the PT-73 was originally commissioned as the PT-13, a jinxed boat that had lost 2 previous crews. We're living on borrowed time, Virgil wailed, reading the fake report Binghamton had planted. To solidify the fear, Binghamton and Carpenter used wires, flashlights, and whistles to make the boat seem possessed at night. Ghost ship! The crew screamed, fleeing the docks. But McHale wasn't fooled. 2 can play at the ghost game, boys. The next night, Binghamton was in his quarters, celebrating his victory, when the lights went out. A moaning sound echoed through the base. Captain Binghamton. A ghostly voice drifted through the window. We are the ghosts of PT-13. We've come back for you. Binghamton huddled under his blankets. McHale, is that you? I have a gun. Guns can't hurt the dead, Wally. A voice whispered in his ear. 4 figures in white sheets, glowing with phosphorus paint, floated past his window, thanks to some cleverly rigged wires and a pulley system. The transfers, the ghosts wailed. Give us the transfer papers for McHale's crew. Binghamton, terrified out of his wits, threw the papers out the window. Take them. Just leave me alone. The next morning, McHale walked into the office, looking very much alive. Morning, Captain. Thanks for the transfer cancellations. We're happy to stay on Taratupa. Binghamton looked at the sun, then at his pills. Why me? Why is it always me? Chapter 6. The Grand Finale. The New Caledonia Payroll. The final saga took the crew to New Caledonia. They were sent to pick up the base payroll, $62,000, in small, unmarked bills. Don't lose it, Chuck, McHale warned. But Chuck Parker and $60,000 were a combination for disaster. While walking down Saloon Road near the racetrack, Parker was distracted by a girl with a heart-shaped birthmark on her ankle. When he woke up from his daze, the money was gone. The payroll, Parker sobbed. It's gone. A girl with a birthmark took it. Binghamton, who had flown to New Caledonia to supervise, was ecstatic. I've got you this time, McHale. Grand larceny. You and your pirates are going to the brig for life. Give us 3 seconds, Captain, McHale pleaded. The crew tracked the thieves to a local warehouse. A chase ensued through the streets of Noumea, past bakeries, flower shops, and a French military parade. The thieves, cornered, hid the money in an old, ornamental cannon. In the final confrontation, the thieves tried to fire the cannon at the crew, but the cannon didn't have a ball. It was stuffed with the payroll. Boom! The sky didn't rain iron, it rained money. $62,000 in $20 and $50 bills fluttered down like green snow over the streets of New Caledonia. It's manna from heaven, Gruber shouted, grabbing bills out of the air. Binghamton stood in the middle of the street, bills sticking to his damp forehead. What is this? What? McHale stepped forward, handing a stack of bills to the captain. Your payroll, sir. Delivered with a bang, the captain began to count. 1, 2, 3. As the crew of the PT-73 headed back to the harbor, McHale looked at his men. They were a mess of stained uniforms, unauthorized souvenirs, and questionable morals. You know, Skip, Parker said, clutching a baguette he'd found during the chase. We really are a top-notch outfit, aren't we? McHale smiled, looking out at the Pacific horizon. We're something, Chuck. We're definitely something. And back on the shore, the voice of Captain Binghamton could still be heard, drifting over the water. The end. The Pirates of Taratupa. The Misadventures of McHale and Old Lead Bottom. Chapter 1. The Indigestion of Command. The tropical sun over Taratupa did not just shine. It leaned against you like a heavy, humid blanket that smelled faintly of diesel fuel and rotting coconuts. In the center of this sweltering purgatory stood the office of Captain Wallace B. Binghamton, a man whose blood pressure was currently higher than the local altitude. Garter belts, Binghamton roared, his voice cracking like a dry reed. McHale, I am the commanding officer of this base, not a traveling salesman for ladies' undergarments. Standing before him was Lieutenant Commander Quentin McHale, looking entirely too relaxed for a man being screamed at. His uniform was more of a suggestion than a regulation, and his grin was the kind that suggested he knew exactly where the base's missing supply of medicinal brandy had gone. The nurses are very insistent, Captain, McHale said, leaning casually against the doorframe. It's a morale issue. High-tension hosiery leads to high-tension nursing. I don't care about their tension, I care about mine. Binghamton slammed a hand onto his desk, which only succeeded in making his bottle of stomach acid pills jump. Everything is on my shoulders. The sinks in the Petty Officers Club are backing up. The supply lines are a mess, and now there's the message. His aide, the perpetually shivering Lieutenant Carpenter, stepped forward with a piece of paper. Sir, it's Admiral Rafferty. He's arriving today for a sneak inspection. The color drained from Binghamton's face, leaving it a sickly shade of gray that matched his hair. Iron pants? Here? He'll crucify me. Look at this place. It's not a naval base. It's a beach party with occasional paperwork. Binghamton looked at McHale, then at the bottle of pills, and then back at McHale. A slow, wicked light began to twinkle in his eyes. Carpenter, Binghamton,